Okay, good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for coming here. Thank you for coming here. Uh, Today we'll be talking about Henosis, and before we get into what Henosis is, let me introduce myself. So I'm Pradeep. I work as a solution architect at Ericsson India, and I also want to introduce the team. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here with us, and it's Saumitra who also has been contributing for me along with me on Henosis as well, along with Nishant. So before we begin with Henosis, let me give you a brief introduction about what Henosis is and what was the idea before which we came up with this concept. So today, as we know, we are moving into containerized deployments. So basically, since we have containerized deployments as well as the VM-based deployments, if you look at how a tech ops engineer would be, I mean, he would need to probably go into a container management to do the containers related stuff, and he need to go into the Nova stuff to do the VM management. So it becomes a little tedious. So what we came up here was to make sure we have a unified management console. So the unified management console would let him either choose a container deployment or a VM deployment on the same console. I mean, either via the CLI or via the GUI. So that's a prelude. So let me get started with it, and also to tell you more about Henosis. Henosis is still at an inception phase as of now. So while we are talking, we are also planning to go ahead and do the actual development and put the blueprint on the OpenStack. Okay, so here's the agenda, a quick one. So we'll just talk about the Henosis. I already gave you an introduction, so let me show you what the Henosis is all about, and a brief architecture about Henesys and some of the features and benefits. Yeah, so like I told you, so Henesys is basically going to provide you a single management console, which would help make all the lifecycle operations on a single pane. So let's take, we can also integrate it with Horizon, or we could also have a separate UI just for managing the VMs and containers. And Henosis would also be responsible for the workload. I mean, it could be either Nova related when it comes to VM, or it could be any of the COEs like the Kubernetes, or it could be Docker Swarm, and etc. I mean, we also can integrate with any of the future or upcoming COEs as well. Today, we are planning to integrate it with Docker Swarm and Kubernetes for now. And this can be seamlessly integrated with OpenStack. Basically, we are planning to provide an API service for Henesys, which will talk to one of the COE underneath and also Nova. So it will basically be seamlessly integrated with OpenStack. We do not need to move out of the design model what OpenStack already offers today. Yeah, and again, like I told you, pluggable with any of the existing or the future COEs. And one more thing that we are planning to add with Henosis is an intelligence mechanism. So the intelligence mechanism is where, suppose we know that the containers come with some SaaS kind of a workloads. I mean, if you would want to put some application on top of the container. So while doing a deployment, launching an instance, for example, in the Nova, OpenStack terms, we can choose whether we are going to deploy a SaaS workload or a regular PaaS workload. So when you choose a SaaS workload, you can select a container. We are planning to even integrate Murano catalog into this. So the Murano catalog will basically help us select any of the existing images, the Docker container images. Or if we are going to go ahead with the traditional VM-based deployment, then we are going to also show some of the Murano catalogs for the VM containers. Or we also plan to give another custom option where you can choose the flavors like how you do in VMs. Or you can also choose the Docker images from the image repositories, repo hubs as well, while you select a custom deployment model. So that is the intelligence that we are going to provide here, and obviously we'll be planning to support both the GUI and the command line interfaces. So now, why Henesys? So like I told you, I mean, this basically eases the tech ops job to have a unified console where he can do both the container and the VM deployments here. So, and also this kind of a solution we do not have in OpenStack yet, and this would probably be unique way of how we can bring in both. In fact, we have a couple of solutions around the containers, and we have Nova for the VM management, but we do not have something which provides both of them. And yeah, that's about it from the why part. And talking about the architecture would be pretty simple enough here. We have all the OpenStack core services, and then we have Courier and Fuxi for the container kind of deployments. And we are also planning to integrate with Glance. So when you query for all the image list, all the images, you would be able to see both the VM images as well as the container images that you have pulled into your local repo, local cache. On top of this, we would have the Kubernetes or Docker Swarm, like I already mentioned. So here we are planning to leverage the Zun API. So Zun API already provides the container management stuff to deploy any of the workloads, container workloads. So we'll be planning to leverage Zun. But having said that, we are not tightly coupled with Zun. So we would also like to explore any other options if there are, so that can also be integrated here. And then on top of that, we have the Zun, the Henosis engine. The Henosis engine is where we are going to intellectually make some decisions. Whether when I mean, like I told you earlier, if we are choosing a SaaS workload or a PaaS workload, so we would need to make a decision based on whether we're going to use a VM or a container in the backend. So we do not want to expose this this information to the end user. We would just ask him to select what kind of workload you're going to deploy. If it's going to be a SaaS workload, then underneath we are just going to use a container workload that you already have. So that's how we are going to bring in some kind of intelligence in the engine. And Henosis API layer is where we are going to have the Horizon integration as well as the CLI integration. So that is going to be the REST interface like any other service. Yeah, so some of the features before we wind up. So this eases some of the tech ops jobs, like I already told you. So he doesn't need to know the intricacies of COEs, whether he's using Docker Swarm or Kubernetes or the Nova scheduler or whatever it is. So it is taken care by the Henesys engine. And then you have the auto option, like I told you. I mean, the custom option is obviously for those guys who would want to have some customization on it. But somebody, a tech op who doesn't have any information on this, he can always choose the automatically select option, where he is just going to use the existing Murano catalog images, or he will let the Henosis engine choose one of them for him. And the other advantage or feature that we have is a simple integration with Murano. So the integration with Murano do not happen today while launching an instance. So you always have to go into another UI where you choose the catalog and say deploy based on the heat templates that you already have. So having that as an option while launching an instance will give him a clear view of what all options he has before deployment. So that way he can make the decisions faster and probably quicker, instead of having multiple windows for doing the same operation. And Henosis API again are agnostic. So tomorrow, if you have any other solutions that you would want to integrate with, you can always integrate it with Henosis API without much of a change. The API layer would remain the same no matter how many backend implementations you would have. So that's another advantage. So having said that, we are looking again for some developers to start with this. We will soon have the blueprint uploaded. And once we have the development, I'm sure some of you who would be interested in this, if you want to contribute, probably you can reach out to me, and we can develop it together. Yeah, that's it from me. Any questions? Okay, thank you.